Our hot topic today is surfers and the ocean, a deep dive into trauma, mindfulness, and being present. My name is Holly Johnson. I'm a program administrator here at BayPath. I work primarily with the Doctor of Health Science and Master of Public Health programs. Our speaker today is Dr. Tara Rava Zolnikov. She is a professor, researcher, and humanitarian whose work focuses on culture, environment, and global health. She holds a PhD in developmental science and three master's degrees in environmental health, industrial hygiene, and sports psychology. Um, she also has more than 100 peer-reviewed publications. And when she's not researching or writing, she enjoys spending time in the ocean as a surfer. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a few minutes to orient everyone to Zoom. If you move your cursor around the screen, you'll be able to see a view option in the top right corner, likely. It might be best if you select presenter view rather than gallery, so you can see the slides along the speaker's video for the best viewing experience. Feel free to use the chat throughout the presentation. We do hope to have a time for a Q&A at the end. And without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Rava Zolnikov for
Thank
her
you.
presentation.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I appreciate that introduction. I think this research was slightly like I do mostly global health work, but I felt very like strongly about implementing like my psychology background into to understanding more of this topic because as a surfer myself, like surf culture is like very strong, and so you really get to know people. So the whole reason I conduct this is because I started listening to the stories of the people I was surfing with, and I was like, oh my God, like there's something here that no one's ever looked at. And so I'm gonna throw this into presenter mode and I can start. So again, I entitled this Surfers in the Ocean, a deep dive into trauma, mindfulness, and being present. So who are surfers? The best part of this presentation are every single person in the pictures are my friends or me. So it's actually really fun that, I was able to throw in every single, all like so many of my friends. So surfing, what I know you've heard of it. I don't know if anybody's ever surfed before, but it is like unlike any other sport, and it requires physical and mental strength. Surfers spend thousands of hours learning how to surf. It's reading a wave, the tides, um, the wind directions, the swells, the refraction waves. There's so much just to learning like the ocean. And it also requires a significant amount of physical strength, and cardiovascular strength and endurance. It's like I've had surfers not come in, some of my friends after 6 hours of surfing. Like there is no water, there is no rest. So it requires like a significant amount of body strength and anaerobic power. And one of the, something to highlight here is that injuries are not uncommon. Pretty much one of my friends at any point in time is definitely injured. And these injuries they're pretty significant. So it found that 42% of surfers suffer from injuries. But I mean, I think that number is probably higher. But anyway, this is my friend. He sent this to me last fall, and he got a bull shark bite. In the shark bite, yeah, okay, it's like not last 2 years ago, year and a half. It's the shark bite capital of the world, and it's in New Smyrna, Florida. And the second most shark bites in the world are here, where I surf in Cocoa Beach, where Kelly Slater's from. So, a lot of injuries, a lot of shark bites. I've had a lot of friends that have been by sharks. And so it kind of requires like a different person. So this got me thinking, like, what is wrong with these people? Why are we doing this? And so, and what was contributing to this, like this toughness? It was beyond because I'm actually a triathlete. And I played college volleyball. So I do a lot of sports. I jump horses, I do dressage, all these hard sports. But what was what was like motivating these surfers? And I wanted to know after hearing the stories, was former trauma contributing to the ability to endure such a difficult sport? And were they being motivated by some type of thing that was like an escape? Like were they using this as an escape, as a coping mechanism? Were they using it more than just a sport? So I conducted this study. It's called a phenomenological qualitative study. It uses participants in interviews, and through this, I wanted to understand the effects of trauma and surfing with surfers. So I had two primary research questions. One was based on the experiences in their formative years, were surfers exposed to trauma? And the other was what type of experiences motivate surfers to continue surfing despite it being a challenging sport? So the theoretical framework, I used two for this, kind of looking at, trauma. I say ACEs, but I actually ended up expanding it beyond that once I got into the study. But evolutionary development theory and self-determination theory. And so, okay, these theories are self-determination is like, I can do it. I'm like motivated. I'm going to better myself. I want to grow. And evolutionary development theory. So like the surfing is like, okay, maybe someone's doing this because they really want to see that improvement. You do get it. It's like over time. And it feels really good when you surf really well, like intrinsically. And so the second one is evolutionary development theory. And this one is more like I always think of this as like my caveman theory. So this is the one like I do because I'm tough, like and so when you look at all of these factors of like the waves, the breath holding, the being like thrown and destroyed by the ocean, the catching these really scary waves, this is more like me strong, like that. That's like my caveman evolutionary development theory. Which also that theory is like very interesting because like I don't know if you guys know this, probably you know this, but women do not surf. Hardly any women surf because of that. And that theory, I used it because it actually supports like again that kind of aggressive male tendency, and it would highlight the gender disproportion in surfing. So kind of like I put it as foundational theory for that as well. Here are my participants. So I did initially like conduct the study in Cocoa Beach, Florida. We have two Olympians in this in our county, Caroline Marks and Kelly Slater, and we have tons of professional surfers. This is like a hub. Um, so I got a really good sample, and as you can see, let's see if I break it down. Yeah, so I had 27 participants. In qualitative research, you stop after the point of saturation, so like that story starts to repeat itself. I had 18 males and 9 females. I think I represented the female population well here. I was like very proud of that because, it is not even. The age average was 36 with a range of 19 to 71. The surf locations I got were Florida, California, Hawaii, New Jersey, Australia, and Nicaragua. And again, kind of these are hotspots. I would say I missed out on South Africa. Um, and, of course, like just some of the islands and stuff like that. The education ranged from high school to master degree. My ethnicities, I was very proud of. I had Latin, 6 Latin, 1 Black, 18 white, and 2 Pacific Islanders, because, I thought that range was like pretty good. And year surfing was 18.5. So these are like dedicated surfers. That was the average. There was one that had 55 years, and then there was one that had 1 year. Okay, so the themes. Surfers experience trauma, and while it might not have been like the direct reason that they surfed, it was like an indirect reason. They suffered direct benefits from surfing that helped decrease the effect. So basically what I heard, and I'm going to give you some quotes here, was that um they didn't surf because of trauma, but once I asked about it, they were like, huh, maybe, you know. So here's some quotes I'm going to read to you so you can see. Here's one main one. Almost every day I surf almost every day because of trauma. Here's one. Oh, yeah, I was sexually molested, you know, at a very young age, as young as I could remember. So probably like anywhere from like 2 to 3 years old for a couple of years until my early teens. Another participant, my mom having like a severe mental illness affected me as a kid. Like she was very aggressive and she was very abusive. There was another participant, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. Like my mom tried to kill herself in front of me. I was sexually abused when I was a child. Both my parents were alcoholics, and divorced. So that was the reason why I conduct this study initially anyway, because I heard the stories of my friends, like their childhoods, and it none of the stories were good. They were bad. And I'm not sure if you know, but Kelly Slater says he escaped. He had an alcoholic father, and he escaped into the ocean. That's how he got out. That's why he got so good. And so definitely something else. Theme two, surfing was used as a healthy addiction. It was used to reduce harm by having a substitute high. This was something I did not know. This was like a completely, you know, like sometimes you get in qualitative research these like these very novel themes, and this was one of them. So, surfing was used as a healthy addiction. Participants suggested that it was an addiction in and of itself, but in a way that felt positive and kept them grounded. There was somewhat of a substitute high, that was validated by the significant number of comparisons to drugs and dopamines hit. Like the population, a lot of the surfers were former addicts. You know, a lot of them had used drugs, alcohol, sex addictions. Like I saw kind of an interesting, you know, theme in here. Surfers felt the adrenaline or escalation of wave catching as they experienced the need for bigger waves. This situation mirrors chasing a high. There was also a lot of information on the culture. Surfing isn't just something they do, it's who they are. Finally, there was an element of coping and mental health as surfing appeared to be used as therapy. Here's some supporting quotes. I always say, this is the safest drug I can do. Surfing is ecstasy. It's just a different form of it. It's a healthy one. It's like a healthy coping mechanism. So, participant eight said, maybe the feeling of a really good drug like ecstasy or Molly when you're really high. You're trying to get that feeling that you feel on a wave, and nothing is really going to compare to that, you know? I always say like elation, ecstasy. You know, I mean, I need kind of a big wave to feel that now because we kind of need more and more. This is a former addict, cocaine. But another participant said, but to me, surfing itself is the one addiction I have. It is addictive. When you get withdrawals from it, it's really difficult, makes you grumpy, and it's like something that you don't want to live without. This participant was addicted to ecstasy formerly. Here's another one. We're supplementing the surfing, trying to break away from maybe an actual drug addiction. Here's another one. I was a heroin addict when I was younger. Then it was meth and cocaine. Then it was opiates. I was such an alcoholic, but then I'd gotten sober. I was shifting and I was like, surfing was my everything. Most of my friends I surf with are young and party. And when I was young, I party with 95% of them are now dead. Drug overdoses or drunk driving, mostly like drink themselves to death, you know? Here's a third theme. Surfing was used as a type of therapy. It was described as a type of mindfulness-based intervention with a focus on being present. So it was like when people describe it, mindfulness is the ability to be present, to remove distraction, have intentional awareness. And surfers described how when they were in the water, they really felt that. They felt present, aware, clear-headed, and they left, like walked out of the ocean onto the beach, feeling more focused and happier. That is like an MBI. Here's some supporting quotes. I don't know if it's the connection with the ocean and the movement of that, or the connection with nature, or if it's just kind of like disconnecting from just the daily. Participant two said, so you just have to be present when you're out there and and I think that brings a sort of clarity. The experience of being in the water, I think, does the same thing. It's very grounding. So when I get out of the water, I feel much more clear because it's such an intense sport. Like you really don't have any downtime because you're always like watching. Another surfer said, I'm relaxed and pretty satisfied. Even if it's not the best session, I just feel like it's meditative and relaxing. Another participant said that kind of like calm. It calms my head in that sense. Like if I have a hard day, I usually like to surf. And then after it, I just feel a lot calmer. It grounds me. It's just that feeling, it's like I said, that euphoric feeling. When you get done surfing, you just feel great and you want to do it again. So, how can I apply this? So, what I found is that surfing, interesting a lot enough, a lot of sports are not intrinsically motivated. Surfing is like entirely intrinsically motivated. No one is mostly out there except for maybe the pros, but all of these surfers are mostly out there for themselves. There is nobody watching. They may never catch a wave. Sometimes the waves are terrible, but they are out there for the satisfaction of their own enjoyment, pleasure, pursuit of happiness. As in sports psychology, intrinsic motivation can encourage joy in a sport, focus on the process rather than the outcome, loss of fear, decreased anxiety, and decrease of high expectations. And you are in an environment that encourages autonomy, relatedness, and competence. So surfers likely continue. So this is wrapping it into like, oh my God, why are these people keep doing this? Because they enjoy it. They love being in the ocean. They are intrinsic. None of this is for anybody else except for them. This is for their mental clarity. This is for, every coping mechanism, every high they get out there, that is for them. And so this intrinsic motivation kind of keeps it going. The MBI, the mindfulness part. So it appears that surfing could be used as a mindfulness-based intervention based off what participants said. So, like I mentioned, an MBI is a therapeutic technique to improve mental health and well-being just by being present and focusing, accepting thoughts and sensations, and remaining positive and kind towards self. MBIs are used like across the map. They are so great because you can just employ it like sitting in your own house. It doesn't cost any money. And it's a very sustainable practice. That's why it's like so exciting that we have this option. Can be used to treat anxiety, decrease risk of relapse for depression, stress, improve chronic pain, quality of life, decrease psychological or emotional stress, and change aspects of psychopathology, like cognitive bias, affective dysregulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. So, surfers described how when they entered the water with stress or anxiety, after they became more present, more aware, more focused. So, after the surf sesh, they felt neutral, positive, and ready to seize the day. This is an important just in general. It doesn't even have to be used in surfers, but MBIs again can promote mindfulness. It's low cost, sustainable, physically active. So surfing, it's a very low cost sport that, I mean, I know not everybody next to the ocean, but people who are, there still are a lot, could access this. So here, the discussion on trauma. So it appears to be linked to trauma. Again, this is not a quantitative study, so I'm not correlating or technically linking anything, but based off my research, there seems to be something going on here. Former research on trauma and sport found that exercising can contribute to flow experience and be therapeutically meaningful. So remember how surfers stated how surfing often felt like therapy. Athletic identity has been associated with post-traumatic growth. And the surfing culture, to be a surfer is it they stand very proud next to that. It's not like someone you meet that's like, yeah, I'm a runner. It's not the same. It's like, yeah, no, I am a surfer. My entire back of my car is covered in surf uh, bumper stickers. Like we all have like surf waves, water, tattoos. It's like that is who we are. And surfing is an athletic identity. And while surfers enjoy surfing and the feelings they receive from the sport, it may also be contributing to healing through post-traumatic growth. And then finally, it makes sense that surfing, as demanding as the sport is, encompasses a population that are physically and mentally strong. Research has found that adversity-related experience are vital in psychological and the performance of elite athletes. So I'm just linking this back into the difficulty of surfing. These adversity related experience like trauma can be useful in sport if harnessed appropriately. So trauma can provide the adversity related experience needed to continue sport performance for surfers. The addiction component. Surfers suggested that they were more likely to be addicts. A lot of them, if not all of them, were said that they had some type of addiction. Um, they corroborated that they felt like they had addictive personalities, and many had substance use disorders. So it appeared that they used surfing as a substance use replacement, a coping mechanism, or a high. Thrill-seeking sports like surfing can contribute to a significant amount of epinephrine and dopamine, which can elicit the sensation similarly experienced with alcohol, drugs, or sex. The personality of extreme sport enthusiasts and the need for seeking these strong emotions, they're called sensation seekers. The need for a high emotional situation can cause sensation seekers or addicts to seek higher doses of emotion, which in this case could be the bigger waves or the more dangerous surf scenarios, which people do. It's like they get good and they move up, 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 bigger, bigger, bigger. So there's a similarity of drug user effects and epinephrine release and dopamine. So example, cocaine and amphetamines would mimic this the most, and the thrill-seeking high from epinephrine and dopamine from surfing. Surfing as a thrill-seeking sport may release chemicals that are like the effects of drugs. This validates the surfer dialogue on either using drugs or surfing to get this feeling. So now I'm like tying it all in. Surfers get stoke. I don't know if you've heard this, but I've coined this. I call it the stoke effect. And so I actually have 3 papers on this, all of these surf, and one of my papers coins the stoke effect. So the stoke effect is a mixture of the thrill-seeking epinephrine and dopamine release, like the effect experienced from cocaine or amphetamine high. In addition to mindfulness benefits of being present, non-judgmental, aware, and kind to self, alongside decreased stress and depression, in addition to the exercise-induced physical effects like improved mood, thinking, and reduced risk of disease. This mixture is what makes surfing completely unique as a sport. So self-determination theory, again, just linking this back to theory, it supports like this intrinsic need for growth and change, which can occur during activities like surfing. And surfers who experience trauma, were addicts, or had substance use disorders, or any aspects that contributed to negative physical or mental health, they might use surfing to challenge adverse outcomes associated with these experiences and in order to improve their physical and mental health. So here's a quote I just wanted to kind of end it with. Why do we do it? Just as soon as I paddle out, my problems kind of just disappear. Everything clears up. I mean, honestly, I've had to decide whether to, do drugs and drink or go surf to kind of cope with what I had going on. So, what can we do now? Use the Stoke effect. Surfing could be applied as a novel mindfulness-based intervention that uses exercise as well as mindfulness practices. Surfing could target populations that suffer from addictions or substance use disorders as a healthy alternative substance use replacement. And surfing could be used as a therapy for people who suffer from trauma. And my conclusion is that surfing is more than just a sport. It's a culture, a lifestyle, and it transcends time and ages. It offers peace in the ocean where people can be present in the moment and achieve happiness. Where there's significant exercise involved, it is met with almost full intrinsic motivation, as the desire to achieve associated feelings far supersedes the danger or uncertainty of the environment. This lifelong commitment substantiates the human environment relationship and creates an experience like no other. So, thank you. Thank you to all of my participants. And then thank you to my friend who took many of these pictures. And again, they were all my friends or me. So, thank you for coming. There's just a reference slide. So, does anybody have any questions?
Hi, it's Renika.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to know, do you think that this can apply to any kind of sport that could be a little bit more dangerous or like bungee jumping, where it's just like there's like a thrill of doing something kind of dangerous?
I would say that I would say that's like what one of the things is like there is no bungee jumping culture. They're not like it's not surf culture, I think is what makes it kind of provides like that foundation of like we're all best friends. The day that the ocean is great, no one is talking more than the surfers to each other. Like there is camaraderie. In fact, it's so there is such a camaraderie in the sport that like Hawaiians have taken like some ownership to it because of in Hawaii because and it's part of like their native culture because of how strong surf culture is like it's become foundational in Hawaii. I just don't think other sports have that. They don't have that strong like camaraderie culture around it. That's does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I guess in regards to someone doing like not necessarily like focusing so much on surfing, but more so like a hobby or sport that could be a little dangerous, but then you are getting that a dopamine rush. And so would you say, that there's, linkage not just with surfing, but with any kind of activity that could be a little bit more dangerous, but because you're getting that dopamine rush, would you say that that kind of like it just applies to any kind of hobby or sport that you get that dopamine rush?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that like that adrenaline, that sense, the thrill seekers, that sensation
Yeah.
seeking, that does apply here. But because this has three pillars, it really separates it from the other like rock climbing or
Okay. Okay.
it's just like, okay, rock climbing doesn't have these big rock climbing clubs. Actually, rock climbers are weird. I am a rock climber. The cultures is so different. Surfers are just more, they're like people of the earth and they just want to be like in earth, like and I mean, I don't know about like LA or anything, but like most surfers I know are very down to earth and that they're always like, I don't know, that culture is different in it doesn't match the thrill-seeking sports. I would say it doesn't match
Okay.
it at all.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other question?
I had a question messaged.
Okay.
Do you think the benefits come more from the activity itself, the mindfulness, being in nature or the ocean, or being part of the community?
That's a great question. Um, I don't know. I would say it's like hard to know. That's like actually I actually I don't know because they are so like if you put a surfer out with all of without any of their friends and they had no friends ever and they were just surfing, they it might fizzle out because the part of surfing is that like you did like go through oh my God, the waves are crazy. Like they were, 8-foot bombs and all this stuff. And you share that excitement with each other. If you're just out surfing that by yourself every day, I don't, I think the lack of community might dissipate that feeling. Because it is strong and surfers really bond together. And in fact, like this is personal, but my relationship when I was single and I was looking for somebody, I was like, I am only dating a surfer. I don't care if they do any of my other sports. And I'm like a horse girl. I do dressage, I jump horses, I play ball, I do all these sports. I'm an endurance athlete. No, I didn't care. I needed them to be a surfer. Like because it was like that person is it's so different than the other ones. So I think culture that community is important too. It's like hard if you haven't done it, it's also hard to conceptualize. You're like, oh, you're just on a board in the ocean. Who cares, dude? Like it's so it's like um and like why would you do something you're always getting hurt? Like we're always hurt. We're always broken. My friend last fall, we surf hurricane waves. And so he surfed a hurricane wave. His board, our fins always get us because they're fins and boards. His fin cut open his entire face. And it was split open and it was just bleeding. He started a GoFundMe, just like a little local one to help because his teeth got all knocked out and he didn't have insurance or anything. He raised like $20,000 just for his teeth because like we all came together and we're like, no, we all felt that pain. And I broke my back surfing. And I had back surgery and everyone's like, well, you're gonna surf. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get back in there. I had to go to the ER. I had a fin wound. Like the brokenness is significant. And yet we still go, and like I said, my original research question was like, oh my God, is it trauma that's fueling these people? Is that why they keep going back? Because I reflected on my own life and I was like, is this why I'm doing that? And you start to think, and then I heard these stories of like these really cool, like hot guys totally being molested as children, totally being physically abused by their, step parents and all these things. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, this was pervasive. And that's why I thought that. But once I got in, I realized it wasn't motivating them. It was what was motivating them was like the feeling they got, the friends they had, the physical, like this community, this bond with nature, this bond with those people. And so that's kind of what happened. Anyway, thank you. I know it's like I'm like so excited about it because I do have 3 papers. They're all in review. So it's like very exciting because this could be, the first kind of research that really digs into this like trauma addiction mindfulness component.
Yeah, someone asked, where do you see the research going next?
Well, I have three papers, three
Hmm.
three publications. So that was that's big because I know we're very like tied in. So I'll send it to, blog. Once it gets published, I'll send it out to all the big surf people and see, if this can help anybody, if they need support for therapy. Like there are therapy programs. They're just kind of running off of um like their own, like people create these programs all the time, not research based. This will give them that now. Like, oh, cool, your research is substantiated, or your therapy, your program is substantiated. Like, so, we'll see that. I don't, besides that though, I don't know. We'll see. Anything else?
If anyone does have any other questions, oh, here's one. Let me see. We had
Thank
a
you.
lot of great feedback already. Just so everybody here knows, we will be sharing the recording and the slide, um, which includes contact information if you're interested.
Yeah,
If any questions come up after the fact, feel free to reach out.
absolutely.
But otherwise, thank you so much, Dr. Zolnikov, for your
Yeah,
time and your expertise. I'm sure everyone appreciates this very much.
yeah, of course. Yay.
And
Thank you. Thanks for
thank
listening.
you. Of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody.
Thank